All right. So today we have our friend, second time on the podcast, Gordon Miller. Gordon, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you.
Always an honor. So I don't know if you know this, but in our podcast, we switched up how we did things. So we always start with a question just to let loose,
just to throw the guests off.
Yeah. And I learned so much from Christopher through these. So I'm sure we'll get to learn something from you. So you're given a personal assistant for life.
Yeah.
And they can only do one thing. What are they doing? Personal assistant. So this could be at home as well.
Okay. Got it.
You got it?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I'm going to go immediately to, I want a positive, healthy meal situation. What I mean.
Oh man, that's good.
Yeah. We move so fast, and good nutrition and sustenance is so important to me. And when I say positive though, so I was on a vacation one time out of the country, and we had this chef that was on site with us 24/7. He would sing in the morning. He would sing while he was making breakfast, and he was just this very happy individual. So a positive human that's doing meal prep and all meals.
Oh, that's a good one. I didn't even
assume he had a nice voice.
Yeah.
But that's just because I've heard people who sing while they cook who maybe shouldn't be singing.
I remember it being just like very, very monotone, and he would go back and forth between English and Spanish. So it was kind of fun. I knew nothing about it. I mean, he could have been saying some exposures.
He's like, I hate this job.
And his orange juice. Of course he does. Right?
I'm a professional and you want scrambled eggs. I'm very upset.
Right. Yeah, that's mine.
Gordon, what's yours?
Oh, this is so easy. So I had a great right arm person, Courtney Bright's her name. I'll make sure she listens. Hi, Courtney. And she was a social media guru when I was running American Salon and Hairbrain both. She was a killer. And over time, she kind of fell into a really nice proactive version of an assistant just because she was with me all the time. She was not my assistant, by definition, but she kind of was. And she made sure I was where I was supposed to be when I was supposed to be there. And that's the story of my life, personally and professionally. I don't even hesitate to say that assistant would tell me where to be, when to be, and why I was there. And
so probably like a calendar, taking care of your calendar
and poking at me and going, over there now. You got 5 minutes, get moving. I mean, that's what Courtney did for me, and that's what my AI assistant
Could you imagine like coming to, like, we're at a hair show right now, but having someone, like, you're very influential in the hair world and you're having to do all this extra stuff and being an assistant.
Exactly.
Like, come on, we got to go. Because they're out, they want to talk to the people, but you have to be that. I used to be a tour manager. And so it was really hard to tell the band, hey, you got to stop talking to the fans because we have to get on the bus to get to the next stop. So that's always a hard one. Man, the first thing that came to mind was like cleaning and taking care of the house, because that serves, I like a clean house, but it serves my wife as well.
Yeah.
Like she comes home to a chaotic, she heard this years ago that your house needs to be your haven, like it needs to be peaceful. Yeah. Well, if it's chaotic and like there's laundry everywhere and it's dirty, it's not peaceful.
Right.
So, but man, then you said the meal prep. That's like having a chef.
Yeah,
that's next level. I would have to scoot over to the chef now.
It's interesting too. We're all different. So for me, both cleaning and cooking are my Zen moments. That's where I turn my brain off. That's where I can not be thinking about my work and my career, which as a workaholic, that's kind of nonstop for me. Like, I'm laying in bed. If I'm not careful, my brain goes to my work, in a good way. I love my work, so, but again, kind of the opposite. I love kind of the physicalness of both cleaning and cooking, because it just puts me in a Zen state where I can just push all the work stuff aside.
Gordon, I so agree with you on that. Like Evan, when he comes up and it snows, like until we get to March, I'm like, I'm done with this now, but I'll be happily out there snow blowing, right? It's this part of like, I'm making something better. Yep. And very much, when I was behind the chair, one of the things I loved the most about it was I can take something that's incredibly unkept in an hour to 2.5 hours, turn them back into something where they're like, I feel great, right? You get this, like, there's this, like, this affirmation of, I did this, right? So yeah, I'm same on your page there.
Yeah, I'm not. So, all right, let's go ahead and jump into the show.
All right. So first question, if someone were writing the Gordon Miller chapter in a future book on the evolution of the salon industry, what would you hope that they would title it?
Oh, that is a fascinating one. I'll start with what I always hope that people will just say about me when I'm gone, and probably that chapter, if it was ever to happen, I would be gone. By the time they get to it, meaning from life, from this planet, because I'm getting old. And I've always said that I hope that people, when they think about me, go, "Oh, he was nice," you know. And then when I think about the industry and the work I've done, especially in the last 15 years or so, it's always been very future focused, like what's coming down the road, not tomorrow morning, but what's coming down the road and what does it mean? And then kind of adjacent to that, trying to take a non-hairdresser approach, meaning I'm not a hairdresser, so I think I look at things a little bit differently. And to me, like one of the most powerful words in my head is always context. It's like anything I'm thinking about, it's like, what's the context? What's the context? How does this fit into the larger picture? And I'm always looking to kind of connect the dots between not only the parts and pieces of the industry, but the larger world, And so I don't know what the chapter is called, but it's about that I nicely do my best to inform the industry about where we're going and how it informs us relative to the world that we live in. And a really great book editor will go, okay, I know what to do with that.
Got you.
Because I don't.
Well, I want to acknowledge you because when I had first reached out to you, there's this moment when you level up in life, right? When you look to someone, you're like, man, that person has a mentor, and I had taken a ton of context away from what the work that they've done. And when we reached out, it was an automatic, and you made that process so easy. And then the thing, I got emotional as we were just kicking this off because you shouted us out, and we had the conversation. Like, I don't mention brands and companies, right? And I just want to say that, like, that hit me.
Oh, so here's the funny thing. So I'm in Carlon picking up our kids. I pick up our kids every day from school, and I saw that you released a new podcast. So I was like, I'm in Carlon. And then you gave us a shout out at the top, and I was like, oh, so I called Christopher. I FaceTimed him, and I can't remember. You were doing something. I was like, just stop what you're doing and listen to Gordon's. And so it was a great moment, because you're an icon into this industry, and so we respect you. So that coming from you, because I know you're not going to say anything that you don't mean, right?
No, I don't.
And I know that
it's a problem. It's a character flaw, So,
and I know that you, with integrity, like you want what's best for the industry, and you're not just gonna, go every which way just because. So.
One reason I have no sponsors, I mean, I had sponsors obviously, but I was doing the Hairbrain podcast for many years in American Salon. And honestly, it's interesting you bring that up, because when I made the decision to leave Hairbrain after 5 years, I checked all the boxes, did everything I promised to do, and set the guys up to be in a really good place going forward. It gave me comfort. I'm like, I don't need to be here anymore. It's like, they're good.
Yeah.
But also, like, the other side of the coin for me was I'm free. Like, so I am a person who talks a lot, in many ways. Some people say I talk too much. And I've always been a pretty straightforward guy, but, we all have to be conscious of, the businesses that we're in and what we can and can't say and do within the context of those. It makes perfect sense. I accept that. But as somebody who's lived in the media space for a long time, where media has a voice, has a point of view, and in modern times, it's become harder and harder for media to really be kind of true to the voice perhaps that they wanted to have, because there's money involved.
Sure.
You got brands, you can't be saying negative things about the hair care industry if you are taking money from brands. And so it was a conscious decision when I left Hairbrain to go, I don't want anybody's money, relative to my speaking. So I've said no consistently to the fair amount of offers I've had to have sponsors, because I was like, if I have a sponsor, I can't really truly be true to myself at this point in my life.
And I love, like you said that, because Jesse Cole, that owns the Savannah Bananas baseball team, he has 0 sponsors, and he's had to turn down so much money. He says, when you come to my baseball game, there's no sponsored ads on. There's no like, oh, the seventh inning brought to you by State Farm or whatnot. No offense, State Farm. That's just the first thing that came in my head. And I love it because he calls his company Fans First Entertainment. He was like, people don't want to be hammered with sponsor. They want to see a baseball game. Now, there are times where sponsored ads and it benefits. And that's one thing for Christopher and I. We're like, we're only going to do it if we believe in the company and we use it as well, So, so when we're talking about the chapter, I in my mind, I see like, visionary, future caster, like things like that. What's coming next? You've seen the rise of independent education. You've seen the rise of social media. You've seen the rise of the coaching culture where everybody's a coach now.
Independence itself.
Yeah. So what's next on the frontier that maybe not everyone is quite ready for yet?
I mean, I think it is all about tech. Honestly, I just ran into Colin Caruso, who's director of color for Paul Mitchell. We were having this exact conversation right before we got together here, and I almost wish I had recorded it for your answer, but it was probably too long. I mean, AI, I really do believe is going to take 80% of what we think of as salon management and take it over, in a very proactive way. I mean, we're not far away. And I've been saying 5 to 10 years. And honestly, if I'm honest with myself, I think it's more like 2 to 3, maybe 4. And, we're moving this, everybody's now probably heard about, the AI agents, these very specific things. And like we think of a booking platform as a early version of that perhaps. But, to be able to have an agent, an AI, that lives in a very specific lane of booking, of financial analysis, of inventory control, of helping you with consultations, of helping you with marketing and creativity, blah, blah, blah. Let's say you have 8 to 10 agents, potentially within a salon business, that there'll be a moment where those agents will all learn to talk with each other, which is what we're calling agentic, and that you'll have kind of a suite of these AI. And I almost feel like we need to stop talking about AI. It's very confusing. I mean, to me, the biggest block for most people about AI is it's just this new and big and all-encompassing thing. But the reality is, and you guys have probably heard me talk about this, but, the really smart people around this topic are like, hey, it's going to be like electricity, which really means we're not even going to think about it. Like
Right.
We're sitting in a building right here. We wouldn't think about electricity unless all the lights went out simultaneously and we heard the AC go off and other things happen too. Like, because now, like, what's happening? Well, the electricity went off. Otherwise, we don't even talk about electricity. It's like, it's
such a good way to think about it.
Yeah. And AI is going to be the same because also, AI has driven all the algorithms in social media forever. I mean, that was AI and we just weren't knowing about it, thinking about it, talking about it. We hit this moment with ChatGPT where everything changed. But the bigger reality is, your booking app will have more AI in it, and we won't talk about AI. You'll have a marketing app that will be filled with AI and do all kinds of cool things well beyond what it does today. We won't talk about it. So I think, I'm starting to talk more about technology, than AI. Technology is going to be bigger, more expansive, more meaningful than it's ever been. And most salon owners are hairdressers or former hairdressers, so they are creative people. And I think there's so much of the essence of who a hairdresser is that in salon management, I think would be better suited to driving the business forward if they can get out of the minutia of everyday business. It's just a waste of time.
All right. Hey, shameless plug. We want to continue to serve. Check out the App Store. Type in The Refined Network. It's available both on Apple and Android. Here's the thing. It's a way that we can continue to serve you. All of our podcasts, all of our digital resources, and our community is there. Here's the thing. We believe that we're better together. Back to the episode. You are the first. This is the first time I've talked about this. So AI, right? So the way that I've been thinking about it is actually IE, right? So an intuitive extension, right?
I like that.
So if we think of it like it's okay, I needed to do this specific thing, right? It's in understanding the intuitiveness of it, right? Great humans, when you look at, prior to this, right? Going to large, like big box retail, there were people that were able to look at spreadsheets and say, hey, that's a hero product, that's a hero product, that's a hero product. It's an intuitive extension of that way of thought, right? And I think to your point, like with these agents, right? What is 5-star service look like from a booking standpoint? It's fast, it's convenient, it's clear, right?
And also in the future, just by the ability for it to interface with other agents and say, when you do that booking and the experience is so crazy good, on the other side, that the salon knows to order your color because you made that booking happen. And it also looks at your history and knows how much color perhaps is going to be used. And everything just happens, everything just happens. And you can be a creative person in salon management marketing. You can direct the agents, or you can get back to doing what you really love. And perhaps it's a little more time behind the chair, whatever.
Gosh, you just dropped something for the color management companies. I mean, I know that they're thinking about it, right? But understanding that future predictive piece to it for looking at inventory and better managing it. Yeah. Gordon, you're a genius, man.
Well, Salon-Centric has already announced and has implemented color fulfillment, by way of, their technology and which I don't think, they're where we're talking yet, but they've already recognized the power of good color fulfillment that the salon doesn't have to get overly involved in, which to me is like, okay, it's the best salon consultant in the world was helping you figure out what color you needed. The hairdressers and the salon owner were often hardly even involved if they really trust the DSC, and the DSC continuously did a good job. It's just a different version because those DSCs are almost gone. So now the technology will step in and replace them.
Intuitive extension. Yeah. And I
love your acronym.
Here's the thing though, because the other part of it was the beauty within that one is, i.e., it always stood for illustrated example, right? So if we think about it in that way of this would be an illustrated example of this person's high level of understanding of doing what you did. Because you said exactly right. How many people have done, that role, that DSC role for a decade? It's a very different conversation when you're having that person versus even a smart person that's coming into it. You can't quite have the context because you haven't helped that many accounts with the challenge of inventory.
Yep. Yeah. We had a conversation. We were working with the distributor, and one of the reps says, "I don't like AI. I don't like it." And I said, "It's not that you don't like it. You just don't fully understand it."
Right.
And she's like, "Yeah, you might be right." I said, "What if I could have your job and make twice as much money in half the time?" And then, yes. And it's like, that's what it is. It's there don't be afraid of it. Embrace it. Are there things that are scary about it? Yes. Are there things that are scary about the internet? Yes. But we all would agree the internet has grown businesses and moved us forward. So
if you study the history of electricity, we used that a few minutes ago. So electricity was really dangerous for a really long time. You just think about it, like in the early 1900s, I mean, it was really, it was crazy. It was really dangerous. But again, what would we be without it? Nuclear power, which has really transformed the third world in many good ways and transformed this country. There's a lot of political ramifications around it environmentally, but separate that from the nuclear bomb,
right?
Which, we should be scared, but we figured out a long time ago how to have safe nuclear energy and still, unfortunately, have nukes.
It's such, and it's the power that and again, I'm a huge component of, we're letting it grow very organically right now. I mean, I always, it gets so interesting, Sam Altman, I wonder, what does that guy's subconscious think about, right? At his level of understanding.
It would be hard to,
right?
Be a fascinating journey to.
Yeah. Hey man, just let me into one of your dreams here. Yeah, let me just see, what are you excited about and what terrifies you? Right.
Yeah. It's really, really interesting, really. But I do think in a couple of years, we won't be talking about AI at all. We'll be talking about, I love that booking app. I love that POS system because it does a whole lot more than it's ever done before, especially for new people coming in, coming into the industry, they've grown up in a different world. And by the way, the last study I saw said that Gen Z, is approaching 50% of almost daily usage of AI.
Yeah.
And my generation, the boomers, are at 2%.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm proud to be in that 2%.
Yeah. And here's the thing. My real story to it is my dad, my mom is going through a cancer journey right now. And he gets the uploads of all of her charts. They were just over at Mayo for about 5 weeks. And he called me immediately after. He's like, Christopher, I got the chart uploads. I put it into chat, right? And I was able to keep up with the doctor and saying, hey, I think that this number means this.
Yep.
Right. And he's like, thank you so much for encouraging me to use this.
Yep.
And here's the thing, the way I look at, you talk about it like electricity. Another thing I've been thinking about is like, the standard calculator, when that first came out, they're like, can you trust it? Right.
My grandmother said it would be the end of the world.
Yeah. Right.
I was a kid when they came out.
Right.
Verdict's still out.
Yeah. And then, the other part of it is and then we come out with like the Texas Instruments TI-83, right? The big boy, the one that had the multifunction.
Yep, hated it.
Yeah, everyone did, right? But the thing was though, hey, it still did its core simple function. Yep. But if you had the specific problem, it could crunch it.
Right? It did the slide rule thing, and now nobody knows what a slide rule is. See, I mean, we don't talk about slide rules anymore, but when I was young, we had slide rules. So anyway, it's a different time. Cool stuff though.
What question do you wish more people in the beauty industry would ask themselves?
Oh, that's a hard one because a whole lot of them come to mind.
He said one.
I mean, yeah, it's one. I think that we're such an emotional industry, and I think we live in at times. It's really hard to figure out reality in today's world about almost anything you think about, because there's just so much misinformation. There's so much, the loudest voice, gets the attention, and the loudest voice is often automatically thought of as right. Yeah. And so I think that forever, not just today, that the biggest challenge the industry has always faced is kind of a lack of empowerment of individuals by way of facts. I don't think the average hairdresser has a true understanding of their income potential in this industry, and yet the average hairdresser leaves the industry because what they see is a lack of potential. So because we don't have good content, and let me say this attached to that. So this generation of hairdressers think that success means being a six-figure hairdresser. And so many see that as so distant from where they are today, they give up.
Yeah.
And I would say, that success, looks for most very different than that. And you don't have to get there. And most people do not get there, but most people don't even work full time in the industry anymore. So we need better and more information. And I think that the lack of that information has harmed more people than we'll ever know. And it drives me freaking crazy. And so that's where I would focus.
Again, I want to acknowledge you for using your voice, because I think there was a high number of careers that, had you not started to be an advocate for just saying, hey, what if this information that you're receiving is disinformation? What if they're not right? And in asking that question, Gordon, I think you've kept a lot of people in the industry. Thanks.
We'll never know, and even if it's one, then it's worth it. Yeah.
And you're so right of the people that give up. I mean, the stats are just staggering. And Nick Saban said this. He said, you're going to suffer one or two things. You're going to suffer the pain of discipline or the pain of disappointment. And so you're going to suffer the pain of discipline to get to the six figure, or you're going to suffer the pain of disappointment that, and I look back at like the salon owners, I look at myself, because a lot of people there are people that just aren't cut out. They just don't have the passion. But there's a lot of people that, they go to school, they get their license, and they can't find the right salon.
Right.
They can't find the right culture. They can't find good leadership. They can't find good mentorship. They can't find a good culture. And so that starts with us as salon owners. It's like, hey, we got to be the one leading the charge. We can't just be like, oh, well, Gen Z doesn't want to work anymore. I'm like, hey, salon owners, quit saying that, because guess who you're not going to attract? Gen Z. I'm like,
well, so this one drives me crazy. So, and if anybody Gen Z is listening, I apologize in advance. So thinking about the history of my career, so 45 plus years. So a few generations, have passed through. This is when I think about my generation, a good friend of mine is Michael Cole. We were talking about this one day. And I was like, I'm really struggling with this whole kind of idea that because a certain generation doesn't want to work as hard that we need to figure out how to make that be true. Because for me, I'm struggling, and this was a conversation again with Michael, I'm struggling with how to say to a person that they can do so much better by working less. I said, I can't quite maybe I'm old, maybe I can't wrap my head around how to get there. Because I know that if you're going to work half as much time, then the time you do work, you have to do at least twice as much to stay even with where you were when you were unhappy working so much.
Yeah.
So like the math, I'm struggling with the math, and Michael's response was, he said, when you think about, again, the people who we've watched come through our lives generationally, he's like, think about our generation. He's like, we were like the hippies. We were peace, love, and happiness until we got to be about 30. And then we became hardcore capitalists. He says, and the younger generation doesn't know that about us. He's like, we were going to save the world, And he says, I think when they get to be about 29, 30, they're going to start to think differently if the grown-ups, do a good job. Sorry, grown-ups may come off odd. But again, the older generations can do a good job in communicating to that younger generation the information they need to be successful. And I think we have walked away from that responsibility as an older generation. I think the whole industry, maybe the whole world, has said they want it this way and we all have to adjust ourselves to them.
Yeah.
And I think I would be happy to do that if I believed it would make them more successful as a generation. And I think the opposite is true. I think what we're doing is setting up an entire a generation of hairdressers to fail in larger numbers than they've ever failed in my entire lifetime. And I think it has nothing to do with them as human beings. I think it has to do with just the reality of the average person on this planet isn't able to get twice as much done in anything by doing half as much. I don't know how you get there. Sorry, young people.
No, you're 100% correct. The other part, that I think of, we just went through the whole, renewal process for licenses.
Mm-hmm.
And the largest thing that I think was, it was just a huge disservice to the industry was, I really believe that the manager licensing piece of it, old, archaic, and outdated. Right. However, the part though, that was for you to be able to run an establishment was that you've actually been licensed in the industry for this long. Mm-hmm. And normally what that would mean is that you served your tenure within a brand that had structure, right? That was able to show you like, hey, this is how you do it. Because Gordon, you hit it nail on the head, man. I mean, there's so many people that right now you look at the average full-time hairdresser. From the data that I see, it's somewhere in the space of like, this is what they call full-time, is 18 hours in a week to 24 hours in a week. Mm-hmm. Now, if you look at the rest of the working world, now, and I'm not saying you got to punch in 40s and I'm not saying 60s, right? Do your thing. But you need to understand that when you reduce that and you are in a 1-to-1, 1-to-2, 1-to-3 client at a time situation, right? The amount that you're going to have to charge, do you understand the math? Right. And then can your clientele, right? Is that scalable? Right. Because then
for most it's not.
And if we're calling, being a 6-figure earner, when you don't understand the ability to run that math, you are on a hamster wheel.
Yep.
One thing that we coach inside the Refine Network and our own personal company is that we do professional, personal, and financial goals. 1 year, 3 year, 5 year. So if they want to buy a car, pay off their car student loan. So
go to Bali for 3 weeks.
Yeah. It's like, how are we going to get there? Because here's the thing. I was young once. I didn't know anything about money.
Most people don't.
They don't. So
we don't teach it.
They don't teach it in schools. And so they're coming into the salon companies. We have to train them on, hey, this is how, like, our goal is to get you to hit your goals. If they hit their goals, guess what? They're going to hit the salon goals, right? So if somebody's like, hey, I want to drop Saturdays, it's like, okay, let's go back because you said on your 1, 3, and 5 year goals, like we need to change your goals or change your actions,
Yep.
So
that was just one thing that popped in my mind.
But I love that you say that because I feel like, again, we not only don't understand money, we don't understand often what goals are and how to manage our lives around our goals and starting with, are our goals realistic? It's like, you got to have a reality check when you set goals. And to me, it's like, and if it's not real, then push it out a little farther and find a middle place. It's like you don't have to give up on your goal, but if it's not realistic in the context of where you are today, then, it's so easy to get frustrated and give up on things in life, period, end of story. It just is. Yeah. And if we don't know how to set goals, if we don't understand math, if we don't understand numbers, I was talking to a financial educator in the industry the other day, and, I was just talking about kind of how she approaches things. And she's like, I teach financial literacy and I don't talk money. She's like, what I've learned as a hairdresser, a former working hairdresser, somebody with a lot of experience and really good at what she does in the industry. She's like, I've learned that if I talk about money, that most of my audiences shut down as soon as it's about money, even though they know they're coming to a class about money.
Right.
She says, I have to talk about hamburgers and do the math around how many hamburgers and how many units of stuff. And we put a dollar sign on it at the end.
Yep.
She says, because my big aha was that we are an industry of people who come often from not a lot of means. We didn't grow up with money. We often grew up with a lot of our own personal and even family insecurities. We carry it forward into our lives. And we're talking about things that they've never even experienced in their life.
Yeah.
I never had money in my life. Me, Gordon Miller. I never, ever, ever. We grew up poor. We didn't have a lot. My father was a gambler, never even heard the word budget at home. None of it made any sense. And it really wasn't until my mid-30s that I finally got a handle on my own money, because I grew up in financial dysfunction and it felt normal. So when I got an American Express card, for the first time, it was just like, let's go, because that's what my dad would have done.
Yeah.
And been proud about it and shouldn't have been. So I think we need to realize that about us as an industry, and understanding that and doing something with it will make us all more effective in helping other people get to their goals. Like it's so easy to forget that.
100%. And I think, the one of the things that is a thought that I have often is, you speak about, the burnout that, some get just by the disappointment, not getting the goal. I think there's another conversation, which is, hey, I love that. Is it realistic to what you're doing today? And if not, I just tell people sometimes, you're like, okay, put a goal out there and it's a dot on the board, right?
Our friends you guys said it. Our friends from Modern Salon, past, present, and future.
The idea I say to them is like, hey, do you remember the connect the dot drawings? I'm like, hey, so put the goal out there and then give me some dots on the way there. And let's plop those. Yeah. Because here's the thing, right? If I'm in a situation of health and it's like, hey, you got to lose 200 pounds to be able, like your body needs help, right? And if it's like, you got to do 200, right? That's daunting versus it was like, hey, let's focus on 20. How do we get there?
Exactly.
What are the habits that we can put into play? Because then we start to build momentum and now we're on our way there.
Yeah.
And I think, to go back to it is like great leadership around checking in of like, what do you want out of your life? The more that we connect to people and what their specific individual goals are, right? And when we make that happen, you remember the humans that helped you make those goals
totally
happen, right?
Yep.
And that's what the legacy is about. Yeah. Right. Oh, I love that. Hell yeah.
Awesome. Well, hey, Gordon, thanks for being on the podcast.
You're welcome.
I do
Pleasure.
want to plug you, Social Beauty Makers.
Social Beauty Makers is my personal professional passion
How do
project.
they get signed up on your email? Because I get your weekly email and I love it.
Just go to the website, socialbeautymakers.com. It's free. I put it out every Monday. Just did Mondays yesterday. Every week. It's really tech focused predominantly. I throw a few other things in there. Very simple, easy, hardly any reading. It's mostly links.
You got a picture that you add in there through
every week I do an AI picture. Yeah. So
how many times do you have to go back and like adjust?
It takes me like a minute, 2 minutes max, usually 3 minutes maybe.
I love it. Sometimes I feel like it's your personality when you.
It kind of is. Yeah, they're always little creatures, little animals, and my theme, Social Beauty Makers is the name of the newsletter and my little company, and because sharing is caring is my subtitle, and that's been my career. The power of sharing is so, and I love it. And so my little art is always two animals sharing something, usually animals dressed as people, sharing a wine, sharing a coffee, sharing a game of pickleball, thanks to AI.
Well, we say this all the time. Thank you for your time, because that's something you can't get back. You I know you're going to be busy today we're at the America Beauty Show. And so thank you for taking time to sit down, share your heart, and connect with us, connect with our audience. We enjoy every second of it.
Yeah.
So,
and you are incredible, and things that you've done for this industry, legacy.
Thank you. And I'm thrilled you guys are in the space that you're in. Anybody who listens to me knows I'm not a huge fan of a bunch of the coaches. And I'm a huge fan of a handful of coaches, people like you who really care and really have done the work, and you're just bringing what you've learned in your work to help others. And I just think it's so powerful. So thank you guys for what you're doing.
thank you. Thank you for listening to the Refine Network podcast. You can find us on social media, or you can email us at hello@therefinenetwork.com if we can help you.